Well, hello everyone. Here to show you that the online chores coloring activity right here is that you see right here is talk about say between downloading and uploading, and this activity explains right here about it's like the basics about what you need. If you wanted to go ahead and copy any type of media files it is, or any type of data it is on file to a CD, and if anybody here is familiar with like what you calls like a type of a CD, such as on a disc, such as like a DVD-R. It is a DVD-R disc. It is, and go ahead and I can work right here as like a marker, like right here marker like that. But that will work. But anyway, DVD and a plus R, and of course minus R. A lot of times though that anybody maybe think about that it's possible that they'll think that we with these type of CDs a lot of times, or it could be like what you call like the DVD plus RW disc, or it could be the minus RW disc, and with anybody that is trying to like would say perform the copying job, and would say with the copying job of if they want to go ahead and copy or do any type of copying from any data that's saved on the computer it is, or on the laptop, is basically the basic steps of course for what you need to follow just to do it. And with anybody will probably think about that from all the things of course that I've been talking about, such as copying is like talk about the easiest ways of how to perform the job of between copying, and then if you want to go ahead and make copies or anything like that, the type of chore to where it's like with anybody it's like that if they would be doing any type of copying is like do this like what you call is like a type of chore that if anything, maybe once every other day they go ahead and do. If it's anything related to like maybe tax files, if it's tax files, or if it's anything to do with maybe work, or if it's schooling or anything like that, of any type of files that you would need to have saved on, like we say, a type of backup data, which I can tell anybody here that I kind of got my experience, of course, after taking a few photos, it is, and then copying it, to a CD, it is. But on the other hand, too, that the word you'll be talking about is like talk about with convert, and what converting basically means that anything that you may have saved on paper. Let's just say that if there was a maybe say if it was a photo, or if it was anything that such as a driver's license that you want to have copied up, if it either scanned, or if it's anything related to say passport, anybody probably think about, I'm like, yeah, that anything school related, such as PDF, that I can maybe like use the PDF file as an example right here. And with the PDF file that you have, like what you call is like a number of pages, I guess they pretty much say it's a number of pages to where that say about 5 pages. Let's say about 5 pages altogether. That you have about 5 pages that that you could be easily created whenever you scan it, or if you were to actually do like say online, if it's anything related to any type of statements or anything like that, and talk about say with a PDF file. With the PDF file, basically means that say personal document file is a file to where you can save up to at least I guess you say 11 pages on one file, and then you would have access to those right on say on your computer. This if you were to save it to like that if anybody is familiar with like using say the word that's like so far as like if you have a file called that you say on like say the for the D the D file, it's like you get the red here, the one that talk about it's like converting using like what you call is like a pen with the marker, with the red marker. I'm talking about like if you want to go ahead and confirm that, like talking about you have to have like an icon here is like how to convert. You say that for something such as a marker, it's like converting that to like what you say a little digital writer, whichever it is. But anyway, but you have right here is that talking about we say with the D drive it is. and the D drive, or if it's the C drive. And a lot of times, if you were to say something like I know a lot of times it's like if you have a file on the computer, such as my computer, and so yeah, for my computer, and then that slash dash or dash pictures or photos, and then that dash and it could be also that if you had the file name could be for like PDF, the PDF would more likely go there. And then if you want to give it like we say the proper destination or something like that, 152 or something like that, that a lot of times it would be saved under, like say, a file like this right here. And with anybody would maybe think about how would you more likely send this to like a file to where if your CD-ROM drive was located at, like you say, that, and a lot of times it would be like we say the drive F a lot of times, or the drive E, I guess the drive F or the drive E would more likely be like we say where the DVD-ROM drive would be located at. And a lot of times it's like by the right click of the mouse, it is that you would from there, click send to, and then from send to, and then it would usually do that. It would open up another program or another window, and then it would allow you to where you can actually say it would be saved to a temporary file, and then from the temporary file that it would say about that if you want to copy it, and of course you'll insert CD. It is into the DVD-ROM drive, and a lot of times with anybody would probably think about that the couple of times that they did it, that if the memory was a little bit too large, it's like with most time with most CDs though, that like besides because I do this used to do it almost all the time with, of course, with my old computer it is, but basically with my new one, since my new one only has like what's called one DVD-ROM drive, that I'm limited to whatever copies, of course, that could be performed. It is such as what you call it, copying, and then on your hand too, that if you're talking about that using like what you call like the DVD-ROM drive, and then of course the CD-ROM drive, and then I used to be able to do copies. It's like from copy to copy. If anybody here knows what I'm talking about, it's like you have right here. You say between the disk size and of course the downloading size, it is that you have right here is example right here of the 2-disc conversion it is. And with most of the time with 2-disc conversion it is that you have right here is if you have insert a disc into like what you call like the DVD-ROM drive, and then on the top any data that you have saved on the CD on the top would be copied to the CD ROM drive, say on the bottom. It is, I guess, a good by which says a transfer. And anybody probably think it's basically a transfer, that any data that you have saved, any data that you have saved on a CD, it is that more likely that anything that would be copied from that CD to the backup blank disk it is. And with anybody maybe think about, well, what are the the requirements, of course, just to perform this chore it is. And basically it requires, like, so far as update, if it's with most of the time that they would need like what you call like a Service Pack 2 program it is. And if most of us are familiar with that of for Service Pack program, most of it is supported by, like we say, for Sony publishers, and some of it could be like by another program it is. But basically that with the copier, with the CD burner it is, that any data that you would more likely be required, of course, for the drive it is. And with anybody maybe think I'm like, yeah, that from the exercise, of course, that I went through of doing any type of copying it is, with anybody probably think about, yeah, that if I were to say copy to CD, a lot of times it would say please insert disk into the CD-ROM drive it is, or into the DVD-ROM drive, and then it would go from there, and then for whatever they would show, of course, on the screen. But then some it may say that talk about the basic steps, of course, about how it's done. That it keeps saying that maybe the memory size is too large. If I can remember right, a couple of times and then that like we say with the DVD R disc, it is a lot of times that if there was any type of performance that went wrong with the copying exercise, that a lot of times it would automatically eject, and then it would tell you that the copying was not completely performed correctly. And so please insert another disc, or read a rewritable disc, or it's like another disc to be able to perform with this setup. And knowing about that with most of the time with CDs, and anybody maybe think about like would say with the memory card, or if it's with external hard drive, and which I have two of them around here, and with anybody, if you're talking about a lot of files, maybe 2 years worth of text files, and on the other hand too a lot of pictures, and of course other data related that you have saved on file, it is. And knowing about about the type of spring clean that you could be maybe doing, maybe especially like on the weekends, it is of talking about the conversion, to how to convert the data to a CD or to a file, it is. And it's basically pretty much basically simple steps, it is, of knowing about how it works, of basically talk about is like knowing knowing how it's done. And basically about knowing how it's done, of knowing about the clicks, of course, I say of the mouse a lot of times, of knowing about for how to perform what the setup options it is. And anybody maybe think about it, if I were to explain, of course, say on coloring on a paper, besides like on the computer, if I were to actually explain something like this on the computer, then more likely that anybody might, yeah, exactly, that there's a lot more to explain, I'm sure. And then the basic steps of knowing about how it's done, and which I don't even I a couple of times had to copy a any type of media files to a CD, it is, such as if it's anybody probably think about any type of ID or any type of photo image, it is. And let's just say if I were to scan something and then of course try to copy it to a CD, a lot of times it would be an option. A lot of times it's usually on it's usually available on like say the actions setup to say menu, it is, to where it's like if you want to go ahead and click on see, they think conversion, a lot of it is on the conversion menu, it is. And with the conversion, that it'll allow you to where if you want to have the data copied to a CD or send to the F file or something like that, or if you want to send it to say if anybody is familiar with like say the online memory storage, it is. But on the other hand, that with copying any type of data from like any type of device, such as an Apple or iPhone or e-reader, something like that, of knowing about that the USB connectors, and then along with that is to know about that making sure that you have your files all updated, it is. And with anybody maybe think about that really a lot of times whenever it works, that's really what I want to mess around with. I don't really know exactly about that all the required files that are required for the setup is like I don't even bother with that. But though I can tell anybody here that it's basically an online chore that I'm sure about almost anybody can do it, but really that whenever it starts really giving you aggravations, that's whenever you just kind of want to set it aside, put it down for a while and not bother with it. But on the other hand, though, that would say with any type of files, if it's like a birth certificate related or anything like that, if you want to go ahead and convert that, transfer, copy that, from like you say on an actual paper form, to like maybe a PDF file, and let's just say that this information to be kept personal, and you have it copy it to a CD, and with most of the time that with like we say that the DVD-R disc, a lot of times that you cannot erase any files that you copy on there, and I could probably, it's like, talking about, it's like between rewritable disk and then on the other end too with read-only disk it is. And I'm like, really, that the type of source of technology. But I'm guessing though that the difference between those more likely would be is that that with that the CD, I guess the CD, the rewritable CD more likely would have like what you call like on the bottom of say of the CD that to where that it will allow you your computer's drive or to go ahead and access those files and erase any data that's on there compared to like what you call like the read-only disk, to where that they say that that pretty much it's like that yep, once it's used up and then it cannot be erased. And with anybody maybe think about, yep, what are you supposed to do with the CD after it's if you no longer need those files. And with anybody probably think about, you're supposed to destroy them. You're supposed to bring if it requires what it calls like throwing the CD away, or if it's damaging it out. Anybody probably think about that disc CD disc are not too hard to damage out, by the way. But I'm like that and then of course you can maybe recycle them. But on the other hand, really, is it really a real genius thing, of course, maybe to do is to rely on CDRs a lot of times just to share any data, or if it's just to keep any personal data saved. It is. And I keep thinking about that that with since I upgraded to like what you call like a new Windows edition of knowing about the type of technology, of course, it needs just to be able to just swipe it in into the CD-ROM drive and then copy it, and after it's done, which anybody probably think about, usually takes about between 15 to 20 minutes or so for the copying to get complete. It is 15 to 25 minutes, and you're talking about that aligned by like a lot of times with most software programs that they use like what you call like a line bar, to where that they say converting it from the file, converting, and then after that, and then of course copying. Of course there's these two different setups it is, and between copying and of course with converting. And with anybody maybe think about, it's like so far as the Chores study it is of knowing about that whenever it converts. So I guess it's basically moving, copying from a file to a file, and I'm thinking that that's pretty much what it means. It's like software is talking, say, with the calculator right here, talk about the speed and stuff like that between the download and of course the uploading. It is about how much time it takes, and of course the memory size. But basically that from whatever that was saved on the file, and then of course trying to save. I guess you can say it's like from converting, it's basically transferring. And with anybody maybe think about converting, that basically moving those files from that file saved on the computer and then copying them to a CD or to another file. And basically anybody maybe think about that really it's not like moving a crayon from here to there to there. You put it there, but then of course like if it's going to roll like this right here, you got a file missing, you got another file missing, and you got another file missing, and then you got another file missing. But other than that, like right here, of really anybody probably think about come on, get real. I'm like, is that really how it works? But I could probably tell anybody here, I really don't exactly even know exactly how it works, but I just basically know I'm like that from where I learned from my exercise, of course, about spending time with it, about copying the data to a CD, and then from another file to another file, basically transfer it is. It's basically pretty simple. And with anybody, we'll probably think about that with this type of work, if you're the type of person who don't want to have to deal with any online stuff, such as filing your taxes online, taking online classes, the basic data that you need to have access to maybe 24 hours a day between downloading and uploading it is. And this is the type of stuff that more likely that I guess the type of technology, of course, that they may be using maybe for the next 10 years from now, that it could be more likely optional, but with a lot of times with most companies, of course, that are doing it. But it's like having access to your data, and of course with a lot of things that you do online, that the memory that you can buy online that allow you to do the transfer it is, and then be able to look at your files even on your online account it is. But just knowing about the basics about how it works, and I could tell anybody here that it's like a kid on a smartphone it is, and knowing about you just click a button and then that's what you see. And what anybody may think about, I didn't know that it was personal. I'm like talking about any files that more likely that you have saved on your computer, and knowing about that if you're going to be having like what you calls like a shared network, to where that if you were to be having like we say shared broadband wireless connection, and that with other files that more likely could be accessed to on other devices it is. And a lot of times it's like just a few clicks of the button, and of course you're able to open up a file and see a file it is. But on the other hand, that I'm like that really the whole purpose of course about converting files to online stuff, and basically means like if it's something that's important, and we may think about that that's an exercise, it seems like it's just too much trouble and don't want to bother with it. But I don't know, I'm like between it you don't want to bother with it, and then maybe let somebody else do it, but then that somebody else may charge you too. And but so far as downloading and uploading it's basically a process of course that I've been doing for quite some time. And I could tell anybody here that between doing the math on an actual calculator and going through these setup options it is, and really what's more difficult it is, more likely the fact about you go through all that time and trouble just to do it, and then the next thing you know it, that nothing's getting done it is. But on the other too, it keeps saying that it failed to copy, whichever it is. But so far as talking say with online chores it is basically talking about the downloading and uploading it is, of knowing about the basics about knowing about what you gotta do, just to say the copy, and of course knowing about how it works. But other than that, it's talking say with the online chores to say color activity.